So it's good to have you here. My name's Dorsey Atkinson. I'm the pastor of Life Spring Church, and you need to be excited to be here. Are you excited to be here? Man, don't let that cold weather bother you. We got the heat on. Is it warm enough? Do you feel warm enough? On this side or that side? You feel warm? If not, snuggle next to the person that you're with, okay? Unless it's not your husband or spouse, and don't do that. If there's nobody around, anybody, don't snuggle anyway. Man, I'm excited. I don't know why I'm excited. Maybe it's looking at your faces. Listen, one of the things that they didn't announce that I want to tell you personally, we've had some people interested in joining the church, and one of the things that we do in our congregation is we have a membership class that we go through, which basically, prior to someone joining church, helps them to understand what we're about. So it would be covering the basics of Christianity, it would cover the basics of the United Methodist Church, and it would cover the basics of LifeSpring and what we believe and how we go about doing this great commission of loving others in this world. If you're interested in joining the church, this is something that I'll be lining up. One of the classes coming up. It's not that long. It's maybe an hour or so, but it usually runs 2 hours because we eat. We usually put a meal with it or something like that. So if you're interested in that or think you might be just a little bit interested, put that on your connection cards, and that'll help me to schedule a meeting or schedule a time that we'll do that. We usually do it on a Sunday afternoon or something right after church, and that way it's not that inconvenient on time. And but if you are, just put that on your connection card, tear that off, put it in the box at the end of the service, and that'll let us know that. So we are in the midst of, and I know you all know about the move. We got a couple more weeks, and then we'll be moving the Langston campus here, and that campus will join us while we remodel and do some fix-up over at the other campus. And then on February 17th, we'll have one service over there for homecoming, and then March 17th. See, people know. They're reading their bulletin. March 17th, we'll have one service over there, and then on March 24th, we'll go back to 2 services, but they'll be over there, and we will be moved from this location to that location. So we're excited about being over there in that community and doing that. It's a whole 4 miles from here. We're going to move a long way. It's like a whole time zone change. No, not really. Anyway, so we're in the middle of a message series called The Ripple Effect. And we are talking about the various ways of how where it comes from is the symbol of the Life Spring Church. This is a symbol that I chose to use as a representative of what I felt like God was calling for our church to be as we developed this church and as we decided how we would live out the ministry of the church. And there's characteristics of a ripple that we've been going through to help us to understand that, and we're tying this all together with a book in the Bible called Nehemiah. And it's a story in the Bible, and we'll tell you a little bit about that. But when we developed the symbol of the ripple, we didn't develop, we just adopted it, if you will. We wanted people to see what we were about. And so it begins with, the first thing is the power of one. So the power of one, of Jesus Christ, of God dropping in your life, of coming into your life, making an impact, that power begins the whole process. It begins the process of all the things that we talk about, but it has to start somewhere. Ripples start and have a center point. So that was the first thing that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, that the power of one, when we allow Jesus to come into the center of our life, it creates or begins the ripple effect. The second one is that the ripple always moves out from where it starts. It doesn't stay there. If you notice the ripple where it was, the rings are going out, moving out, but multiple rings moving out because of this impact of Jesus in their life. So we felt like that, like the water droplet hitting in there, that it would move out. That Jesus, when He hits inside of our life, it causes us to want to move out to make a difference in this world. And today we're going to talk about the third characteristic of a ripple. And that third characteristic of the ripple is when the ripple moves out, it has an effect on the things that it comes in contact with. It has a positive effect on the thing that it comes in contact with. Now, we're not talking about a ripple effect that's like a tsunami that just washes over everything and just destroys things. What we're talking about is a ripple effect, and I just want you to get in your mind someone having a little boat that they put out there, a little toy boat they put in the water, and somebody casting stones right behind the boat, and the stone hits the water, the ripple comes, and it moves the boat along on its way. So today we're going to talk about the positive impact of a ripple or a positive impact that this ripple effect has, that Jesus in your life, that God in your life should or could have in this world. Now, how many of you have ever, let me just tell you a little bit about some ideas that came in my mind. And this was just driving over here to talk about this. Over the last years of my life, I have gotten into a bunch of different things that I didn't know what I was doing. Have you ever got in something that you felt like you were over your head in doing? I have remodeled things. I've worked on my cars. I've done electrical work. I've done computer work. Basically, I just want to say about anything that I do, I'm in over my head, okay? I've had situations where we bought homes and I see everybody else flip this house and, remodeling stuff. And so, yeah, we'll do that one time, or we'll do it and I make a living on this. I went and got a real estate license to flip houses one time, believe that or not. But the license, though that was difficult to get, the part of flipping is really hard when you don't know what you're doing, And I've had stuff that's happened in my life where it looked like the problem was so huge, so big, I just decided to live with it. That I just decided to live with it because I got tired of asking people for help, or if I asked people for help, they just turned me down, and I just felt like I was on my own. And I've had situations where my car where the dashboard lights would go out. Just nothing would run. I don't know how fast I'm going. I don't know the gas hand. I don't know any of that. And I'm thinking, oh, we don't have any money. It's a terrible thing. I just can't do anything. So I just drive for weeks and weeks and weeks with, every at the end of the week, I always went and got gas just because my gas hand was broke, or, the lights on the dashboard didn't work. And then I'm just talking to somebody and they go, well, let me come over and take a look. And so they come over there and they take a look, and I'm thinking, man, I don't have any money. We're tough, just tight on money and all this. And lo and behold, it was a fuse bone. And so I'd been driving several weeks because this person came and they had the expertise to help me in what I was needing help with. In fact, it's happened to my wife before. We was driving one time and the car broke down at one of her work one time, and it was broke down, and we just didn't have the money to fix it, and we just didn't know what it was. We couldn't get it to start. It wouldn't start or anything, and she was working at a podiatrist in Dublin, and she left the car there for so long that the people asked her, said, "Can you move the car?" Because she had parked right up against the building, right near where the prime parking places is. And she'd been there several weeks, and I just didn't have the money to get it towed. We just didn't have it. And so they asked her to move the car. So one Saturday, she told me to go over there and move it. So I got in the car, and sure enough, I tried it. Because, if my wife tells me it wouldn't start, I'm just like, okay, it won't start, So I tried it. It wouldn't start. And I eased it back, and it was a straight drive, and I put it in gear, put it in neutral, and just rolled it back. And while I'm rolling it back, I turned how you turn the ignition on and your gas hand goes up? And I noticed the gas hand never moved. And I said, "Baby, do you have gas in the car?" Well, I don't know. And so so I went and got some gas and put the gas in the car, and it started right up. We had been going like 6 weeks with only one vehicle, doing all this stuff. And now that, I'm not knocking, it happens, okay? She's back there, and it's okay. It's just a joke. It's just an introduction to my sermon, baby. It's not anything, But but my point is that there's times that we go through misery and suffering and things because we just don't know. There's times that we go through difficult situations and we just don't know how to get out of them or what to do, and it's overwhelming sometimes. Sometimes our finances feel like that. It's just like, I don't know what to do. Sometimes it's our diet. I just am so big, I just can't lose anything, so I'm just going to sit down and have me a can of Pringles. And notice I said a can because I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to eat just 2 or 3 of those. The can I cannot stand a half empty anything, so you just eat them all or don't eat anything, Yep, that's not good, really. It's really not. It's really not. So anyway, so my point is that we all have those times and those situations in our life where it seems so overwhelming, or it's just one more thing on us that we just don't do it, and we suffer and go through stuff it's just so hard until somebody helps us or somebody steps in and things change. This is what a ripple effect is. Now, the story we're going to talk about in this passage today comes from Nehemiah. Now, Nehemiah is a book in the Bible. It's an Old Testament book. It's a great leadership book, great book on leadership. And this guy named Nehemiah, what basically happened is the city of Jerusalem, over several hundred years, had been destroyed, basically. Not all the way destroyed, but the walls had been, conquering armies, conquering enemies to Jerusalem would come, and they would tear down the walls, burn down the gates. They would destroy it to the point that it was not operational as a city. They had no gates to protect themselves. The walls were broken down, so it was just a bad situation. And the people of that community, because it was on a trade route, that it was a pivotal place to control, the people there, when different countries would come in to capture Israel, capture that fort or that city, or break down the walls and control that area, they would take many of the people slaves. And they would take them off into exiles. And basically, they took the strong ones, the good-looking ones, the smart ones. They took those with them, and they left the people that were like me. They're not a threat. They're not about to rebel against us. They're weak. They're just the people that just struggle, just average people. They're not the exceptional people they took off in captivity. Just average Joes. And the average Joes were there, and they just couldn't get together and couldn't form a committee, couldn't form anything to do anything. And they just lived in terrible situations. The mafia took over the area. They were extorting money from the people. They couldn't lock their houses up. It's just a terrible situation. Nehemiah finds out about this, and he had been one of those that had been taken captive. And while he was heard about this, it just broke his heart. He took it personal. It just hit him so hard, and he's just like, I can't believe that not only I'm suffering way over here, but my whole town, my whole heritage, the whole city that I come from just is struggling, and those people that are there are struggling. And what happened is, over time, those people that were taken in exile, or the children of those people taken in exiles, started working their way back to Jerusalem, but there was really no Jerusalem. It was there, but it just wasn't what it's supposed to be. Things were broken down, and it was so overwhelming, they just quit working on it. They just figured that's their life. We'll never have a city. We'll never have a town. We'll never have a temple to worship in. It's just the way it's going to be. And they just accepted that as the way life was going to be. And Nehemiah, it felt a movement of God, the power of one hit in his life. And he began to pray and fast. And during his praying and fasting and thinking about what to do, he had an opportunity to speak to the king. And the king basically granted him the authority and the power to go back and fix his city. Even though it doesn't help the king any, he just felt he needed to do that. And so he went to go help fix the city, and the king let him have a few army men to help him, to protect him on the way. He gave him permission to take some lumber from one of his forests. He gave him letters that he wrote for him so he could pass through the various countries he was going through, that he was over, the king was over, but he didn't want anybody to hurt this guy on his way. And so Nehemiah gets to Jerusalem. And we're going to read that part when he first gets there. Okay, so he left from having a job in the palace, having this move of God, this impact, and this ripple begins to move him. Remember, the impact of one begins to move him. This love of God, love of what Jerusalem meant to the Jewish people, the love of God began to move him, and he ends up in Jerusalem, and that's where we start today. So in verse 11 of chapter 2 of Nehemiah, he says, I went to Jerusalem, and after staying there 3 days, I set out during the night with a few others. I had not told anyone what my God had put in my heart to do for Jerusalem. There was no mounts with me except the one that I was riding. And I'm going to do this like a Bible study. I'm going to preach it different than I did at the other congregation. So here's the thing. He gets there, and he's there for 3 days. Now, I don't think he came there to rest. I don't think he came there to relax. I think he came that whole way, and before he started anything, before he did anything, he wanted to get a lay of the land. You understand what I'm saying? He wanted to see what he was in for. He hadn't been there in years, and he just wanted to see what things were like. He went out at night with a few others, and he had not told anybody. This is really critical. He had not told anybody what God had put into his heart to do for Jerusalem. So he knows inside of here. He knows inside of here what God's calling me. He may not have the details worked out, but he knows God's called him to do something, and he's there. I don't know if you've ever felt like that before, like you feel like you're supposed to do something. You feel like, you just feel it, but you don't know what it's going to look like, but you just feel like, I need to help in that situation. I need to do something, and you just sense it. You see some of the stuff that's going on in the world today, some of the sickness, the struggles, the pain, the suffering that people are going through, and you're sitting there going, I think I can do something. I just don't know. Nehemiah was that person. And so he went there. It continued, said, by night, I went out through the valley gate toward the jackal well and the dung gate. So these are, in the city, they had various gates located at different positions around the city. And the name of the gates would tell you what that was normally for, what it was used for. So when it says a dung gate, that was the garbage dump gate. So all the refuge, all the garbage and the stuff inside there that they had to throw away, they took out the gate, and that would be out on the other side of the dung gate would be the refuge pile. They just threw all their junk out and all their trash out. So he circles around that, and he's examining the walls that had been broken down and its gates, which had been destroyed by fire. Then I moved on toward the fountain gate and the king's pool. But there was not enough room for a mount to get through. So he's riding a horse or he's riding a donkey, and it's so broken down, so rubbly, if that's a word, he can't get through. So he gets off his mount, and then it says he has to go another way. So I went up the valley by night, examining the wall. Finally, I turned back and re-entered through the valley gate. So he got all the way around, and he says, okay, I've seen enough, and he comes back and he goes in the valley gate. Now the officials did not know where I had gone or what I was doing, because as yet I had said nothing to the Jews, the whole group of people, to the priests, the religious people, or the nobles, the leaders, or the officials, the ones that's put in charge, or any others who would be doing the work. So he hadn't told anybody anything. He just went and looked. He just went and got a feel for it, and he went around. And let me tell you, that's no easy task, because this is country dark now. There's no street lights around that. There's no, I mean, you know what I mean by country dark? Y'all are country people. I mean, there's no street lights. There's nothing. There's a few torches, and he's going around, and he's out there. And remember, the mafia and bad people and robbers are all out there, and they would take advantage of people. So he took a big risk to go out there and look at this, to inspect it. And he could have inspected it during the day. He could have looked at it in broad daylight, and it would have been very easy, but he wanted to just look at it on his own and not let anybody know he's looking. For some of us, that's hard. For some of us, we go in a room and we see problems, and we automatically just start popping out what to do. We don't keep our mouth shut and look at the whole thing. We don't listen long enough. We don't look at it and study over it and think about things. We just sort of start giving these one-liners. Well, all you got to do is do this to fix your marriage. All you have to do is do this to fix your finances. All you have to do is to do this, and you won't be depressed anymore. And we just come out and we tell all these things just really quick because we're in a hurry. We got things to do, people to see, places to go, and you just one of them. We just got to get on to the next. And we don't spend time with them. We just throw Band-Aids on stuff, and then things don't get fixed and things don't feel better. See, that's what it's like to not be a ripple effect. That's what it's like to be a tsunami coming into something. Because sometimes your words don't do anything but just wash over me and make me feel like I'm drowning more. Your efforts, your energy, come on, let's just do this now. It's like I don't feel like, you don't know what I feel like. It says then, verse 17 says, then I said to them, you see the trouble we are in? This is one of those great football coaches' speeches here. He says, do you see the trouble that we are in? Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been burned with fire. Come, let us rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, and we will no longer be in disgrace. I also told them about the hand of my God on me and what the king had said to me. And they replied, let us start rebuilding. So they began this good work. So here's a couple of things I want to point out to you. I want you to write these down if you got your pens. How to have a positive impact in difficult situations. How you can have a positive impact into some of the difficult situations that you're in, that people you're around is in. Here's the first one. Number one is you got to connect with the person, not the problem. You got to connect with the person, not the problem. Nehemiah, for those 3 days, I believe he did exactly in those 3 days during the day what he did that one night when he went around. He was watching. He was looking. He was seeing with his own eyes how bad that wall was. But for those 3 days, he's walking in the markets. He's walking around and talking to the people. He's hearing what they're saying is wrong. They live there. He's just a guest. He's there for a short period of time. He knows God's brought him there for a reason, but he's just listening to people. It's what I think he's doing. He's hearing their stories about, well, if I just had this, if this wall was just fixed, and if I had this, and they just tell us, well, what's the problems of what that's caused? And he hears all this, and he meets the people, and he hears the stories, and he learns about the people. See, too many times in our life, we focus on the problems that people have, and not the people who have the problems. We don't help people, we help situations, because situations make it easy for us. Because people can get clingy. They can start taking your time, they can start taking your energy, and we're limited on that. And therefore, we have learned to put up defenses around us to keep us from getting close to people, to keep us from hearing the people's hearts, to keep us from hearing their struggles. Because the truth is, when you're a Christian, when you have been impacted by God's love in your life and you hear those things, it hurts you. And so therefore, we don't hurt, we just don't listen. We don't spend time, we move fastly. See, when he connected with the people, he found out they were living in disgrace. They'd lost their identity, their way of life. They had returned back from exile to being captive. Now they're free, but they're captive because they can't do anything. They can't get or hold jobs. Others are talking about them and complaining about them, making fun of them. They're ignoring them, but do nothing to help them. See, that's the way the mafia is. That's the way the people are in the world. That's the way the children of the darkness live. They just make fun of people that's weaker. You know, when we were growing up, I didn't know we were poor, but we were poor. You understand what I'm saying? I didn't know we were poor, but we were poor. And I was okay with being poor. I mean, I didn't know it. It's just my way of life. I didn't know. It's just the way it was. Until we started going to school. And when you start going to school, you find out people aren't all the same as you economically. You start finding out some of those people in the school got money. Some of those people don't have to wear hand-me-downs. Some of those people don't. Some of those people have rain boots. You know what my rain boots were? To go to school, because I have my tennis shoes for basketball, because my tennis shoes for basketball was the same tennis shoes I had to use for going to school and all. You know what my rain boots was for that? We called them sunbeam bags that the bread came in. And you take those off and put them up over your shoes and go to school. And when you're a little kid, you go to school like that, you just thought everybody's doing that until you start getting made fun of. Until you start hearing what other people have. And you know what I found? The strong people, the people who have stuff, sometimes they tend to pick on the people who don't. The people who have the things that are all going, they tend to pick on the people that don't. And you know what happens? It's not just the strong one picks, but the fringe people, the border people. You know what the border people are? They're the people right on the edge of being like me, not having, or being like them that do have. And they're on the border, so they choose to be on the people's side that have, just so I can be associated, and they pick on the weak. Children of darkness, that's the way they think. Children of darkness think like that. They don't think about how I can help that person. They don't think that my words hurt, but they do. We've all been hurt by somebody's words. We've all been hurt by somebody's glances and their looks. We've all been affected by that. See, that's because they don't see people. The people who do that, they just see your problem. You're dumb, you're ugly, you're fat, you're poor. You're not good with your hands. You can't do anything. You're a quitter. You're this. All of these things, they just continue to pick. See, but if they look at the problem, see, the thing is, when you look at the problem, that's the source is what some of these things are stemming from. See, for Jerusalem, the problem wasn't that the people were bad people. The problem was the gates were burned down. The problem wasn't the people. The problem was the walls were broke down. The problem was the mafia could run anywhere and do whatever they wanted to because there was no law, because there was no gates to lock anything up to protect anything. The effects of the economy were all because of the walls being torn down. So the solution is easy. Fix the walls. It's not rocket science. It's not rocket science, but everyone there already knew that. Everyone there knew if we just had walls, we'd be good. Yep, things would be better. If I just had my car back, I wouldn't have to be sharing a car with Jody for 6 or 7 weeks. It's just, and because I don't know how to fix the car, I've ruled out the simple things that it could be gas. And so I just struggle and go through life struggling. So the first one that we said is you got to see people and not just the problem. The second one is you got to care enough to get involved personally. Nehemiah got up from where he was and went there. He didn't send a delegation. He didn't send his top craftsmen or whatever he had in his posse that was with him to go look at the walls. He went and looked himself. He went to the city. He talked to the people himself. He went himself. He personally got involved. And for many of us, that's the hard part, is to care enough to get involved personally. There are people in your life that your words of encouragement could help. I'm going to say that again. There are people in your lives that you have in contact with that your words of encouragement could help them on their journey to recovery. But because you're afraid to get involved personally, they're going to go without having that encouragement, especially from you. See, Nehemiah knew that this impacts us all. I've got to get involved. So he lets them know, this is personal to me. We have to do this. The next thing is you got to work together. Nehemiah didn't come there to fix their problem. Nehemiah came to work with them on their problem. Nehemiah saw the people, he saw the things, and he came there to work with them. He came there, as your next one, is to lift people up. He didn't come to put them down and say, you should have done this, you should have done that. Don't you hate that? When somebody comes to you, now Thomas, you do that once in a while, but he's learning not to. Thomas and Mike are these great mechanics, and they're sitting right here. And they don't realize sometimes their knowledge of everything they know about automobiles, sometimes their mouth comes up and says, well, you should have done this, don't you know that? Well, heck no, if I'd have known that, I would have done it, because I don't want to have to hear you getting on to me. See, sometimes we've got to be careful with our words because there's people that are hearing those words. Thomas is going to be getting me after this service now. We want to help people and have a positive impact by working together with them. Most of us that are struggling financially, most of us that are struggling physically, most of us that are struggling emotionally, most of us that are struggling in relationships, we don't want you to do it for us. We just would like someone to be in there with us. Do you understand that? I don't want you to fix my financial problems. I want you to be there with me and help me to learn how to do it. I don't want you to tell me the 4 keystrokes on my computer to do this so I can get on the next thing. I want you to teach me so I can understand, because one day you won't be here. I want to be able to do it after you're gone. I just don't want to know keystrokes. I want to understand. I want to be able to keep functioning and keep doing. But in order to do that, you have to see people, not just a problem. You have to care enough to get involved. You have to work together. And then you have to do these things of lifting them up, encouraging people and helping them to move on. Lifting and encouraging and helping them move on. So what are some ways that you encourage people? What are some ways that you help people move on in their quest and in their journey of improvement? If you don't have many stories, then maybe that's the place you need to start in your life and thinking, maybe I need to be looking, and maybe I need some help from someone who knows how to encourage to learn how to encourage. Now, the interesting thing about this whole process, and you'll find this out over the next several weeks, the people who rebuild the walls eventually were already there. Nehemiah did not build the walls for them. The people did. The people who thought that their various problems in life separated them from being able to do anything together, Nehemiah came and told them, we're going to do this together. We're in this together. And he brought them together with the single purpose. We're not going to fix the economy first. We're not going to fix the mafia first. We're not going to fix the temple first. We're going to fix the walls. We're going to do one thing, and we're going to do it well. We're going to repair the walls. Ricky, we're going to repair the walls. You got that? Rich, we're repairing the walls. Well, what about the gardens that need to be done? Okay, that's fine. But we're going to repair the walls. Make no mistake, we're going to repair the walls. We're going to repair the walls. He never said, you're going to repair the walls. You're going to do this. I'm going to sit back here and just instruct you. We're going to do this. How many of you have ever played an organized sport before? Raise your hand. Just want to see it, okay? So you can relate this. How many of you have ever had a coach when you were playing organized sports? How many times did that coach tell you, we're going to do this and we're going to do that? Raise your hand. And how many of them actually went on the field and did it with you? There ain't many of them. Listen, I've had plenty of coaches tell me what we're going to do and get out there and do it. But they ain't went out there and made one tackle during that game. I've had trainers on the team patch me up and put me out there, but there's no trainer that I had ever went out there and kicked the field goal. I've had all kinds of people on the sidelines working and helping and working together as a team. And then we see ourselves as a team, but we're all doing our parts of the work. But some of us have to go out there and do the work. And those people were already there in Jerusalem. They just were together. They were all about them. I just need to survive my little house right here. And that wall on the other side of town, I can't go over and work over there. I got to deal with this. See, sometimes when you focus so much on you and you don't care about others, nothing gets done. Nothing gets done. This is why we're doing what we're doing at this church. This is why we're taking two congregations and we're putting together, because we've been so focused on everything we can't focus on anything. We've been seeing problems so much in our congregations, and we see problems, but we forgot to see people. We forgot to see behind these problems are people who are struggling with their finances, with their life, with all of these things that you and I both struggle with, and we fail to see them, and we sit there and we do surface talk, and we don't get to know one another, and nothing changes. God did not call you here to this church. God did not call you here to this town for you to sit and do nothing. You think, if you're a student in here, you think that it's about the education that you're getting. That is one part of it. But that education that you're getting is to help you do life. And in the midst of doing your education, you're forgetting how to do life. We want to teach you how to do life. Education and life aren't separate. They're together. You don't do education in a vacuum. You do it in the real world. You get out and you help people. Yes, you've got tests. Yes, you've got homework. Yes, you've got a life. And yes, there's still suffering in this world. And if not for when you get out of school to go help it, it's to help while you're in school. It's called multitasking. It's actually called life. And for you adults that are in this room, who are struggling with where you're going in your next stage of life. What we have done so much is we focused on us so much, we are failing to see the people in our own town and community who are struggling. Children who are latchkey children who are not getting the education that they need or not getting the extra attention they need because the parents are having to work 2 jobs or 3 jobs just to make ends meet, and those children are at home and nobody's with them, and so no longer is it the TV that is raising the children, it is the iPhone that is raising them. It is the Galaxy phone that's raising them. It's whatever they can get to online to do that, and there's no interaction with people. And we just keep saying somebody needs to do something. There's people that are lonely. There's people that only see other people during the week or communicate with others when they come to worship service. And then everybody's nice to me, but I never hear from you the rest of the week. And they're dying slowly on the inside. Their light that God had given them of feeling like I found a place that can help me. I found people that care for me. But yet, during the week, Satan just tries to put that light out during the week. The power of one is it has to matter to you. When one person hurts, we all hurt. Another thing our coaches did in sports, many of them, we would be doing certain drills. And if one person messed up the drill, guess who else had to do the work? If you mess up, you're running a lap. Well, good. I'm not going to mess up. I'm good. The split end on the other side messes up. All of us other guys had to run the lap with him. Because that's what team does. See, many of us have forgotten we're part of a team. You're not alone. You're not the Lone Ranger. You may feel like, I think that's one of the greatest tools that Satan has is to trick an individual to think you're alone in this. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. See the positive impact, the way we change this world is for us to take all of these differences that we've got and start putting them together and say, let's just focus on a few things. Let's just focus on the people who are struggling. Let's just focus on people. Let's just focus on doing a few things and let's help people. Let's see people for who they are. Let's invest in the people and let's see what God will do with that. Maybe in the process of investing in people, we'll rebuild a wall and we'll bring structure into a community that didn't have it. Maybe the power of one in you will transform your family. Maybe your family will be more cohesive, more together, because you practice that in other areas of your life. So what would it be like in your life if you began to have a positive impact on others because you saw the people instead of the problems? If you personally got involved, if you worked together with people, if you moved them along. And I just want to say this to the, I'm going to close on this. Nehemiah, don't ever stand with your arms crossed, sorry. Nehemiah said this at one point. He said, I also, after he told them all this about rebuilding, he said, I also told them about the gracious hand that God was on me and what the king had said. I don't you hear this. Listen to what I say. Then he said to them, you see the trouble we're in? Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been burned with fire. Come, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, and we will no longer be in disgrace. Period. I also told them about the gracious hand of my God and what he had put on, what the king had said to me. You don't have to tell everybody what God's doing inside of you when you first meet them. You just need to help them. There'll be a time and a place for you to give your glory sightings. There's a time and a place to give your glory sightings when you've learned who that person is. Sometimes giving things like, God sent me to help you, Ricky, is like a tidal wave coming on me, not like a ripple. So just be aware of that. You're supposed to give your glory sightings of how God's moving in you. But do them at the appropriate time that lifts people up but doesn't swamp the boat. So as we prepare to leave this place today, I want you to bow your heads just a moment. I'm going to close this out with prayer. I heard 3 stomachs growling, so I know it's time. So what I want you to do is just pray for a moment about God putting one person on your heart right now that God wants you to see as a person, but you've recently been seeing them as a problem. Just ask God, and if you're not used to praying, you're not used to, it's just like this. I'll just sort of pray it for me. God, help me to recognize someone in my life that I've just been seeing as a problem, not a person. Lord, I pray that you would help me to push that problem to the side and let me see them as a person. Help me to have empathy for them. Help me to care. Help me to feel like when they hurt, when they struggle, it hurts me. Give me the courage and the strength to get personally involved with this person. Give me the courage to just give a call or just give a word of encouragement. It may seem out of the blue. It may seem crazy to them, but just give. This is about me and you right now, Father. This is about me cleaning out the stuff in my closet to make room for the love that you want to place inside of me. Help me, Father, because I can't do this alone. Help me, Father, because I need this. So if you prayed that prayer, over the next period of time, you'll have a person come on your heart. And I pray that you have the courage and the strength to step up, to allow what God is doing inside of you to be so impactful it moves you out and you begin to go and you help lift them up. You don't have to do it for it, but be there with them. You don't have to have all the answers, but help them to move on. This is our prayer. So give us strength and give us courage, Father, to be the people of God that you called us to be, the people of change. Not of negative change, but of positive change. The people who live out the ripple effect of Jesus' love in their life. That's who we want to be. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And all of God's children who were in agreement raised their right hand and brought it down with a loud yes of affirmation. And all of God's children said, yes. Amen, amen, amen. God bless you and have a great day.